Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we are at property address 335 Tahoma Court here in Columbia City. I'm going to repeat that one more time. I just had to reset my system here. That is 335 Tahoma Court here in Columbia City. We're checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. I describe everything as if you are standing in the road facing the front door of the home. We are at the line's coming out the right side of the house, but fairly near the back right corner of the home. We're kind of into this little notched out spot here at the back right corner. So going into a 3-inch ABS cleanout, it's got a clever little mini cap on top of it. It's 3-inch ABS, water's running. We're gonna zero out right here at the base of the cleanout and off we go. All right, so we pick up a Y connection here almost immediately upon access. Transitioned there over to 4-inch 3034 PVC. What the Y connection is for, I'm not entirely sure of. It could be storm system potentially. There's a lot of possibilities as to what that could be there. I guess theoretically it could be some kind of party line connection, but it's kind of an unusual spot. Columbia City is a place I get out to maybe once a year, so most everything out here, I don't recall ever finding party lines, but it's entirely possible. The city might be able to clue you into what that is based off of some kind of install diagram or something of that nature. And sorry about my camera's been upside down for most of this thing here for some odd reason. I'm not sure why. But we've gone in and out of a few different spots of standing water there. We're going to take a look at those on the way out when the line's fully drained. Right now we're going to get kind of an exaggerated look at them. And this right here, I thought we were at the tank there. We might not be. Might have something going on with that pipe joint. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that spot as we come back out. And I believe what you have out here, it's a very unique thing to smaller towns. It's called a step system. It's like a half septic, half city sewer line. These smaller towns that do not have sewage treatment plants, they don't have the ability to process the solids in a lot of cases. So what you get is a tank that holds the solids, and then the water drains off to basically a regular main out in the road. Yeah. And the homeowner behind me just confirmed that here. So this would appear to be the tank connection here. There's some very thick buildup at the end of the line here. It has the appearance like this at some point in the past may have clogged, backed up, overloaded, something of that nature. It's kind of hard to say what exactly happened, but anyway, I'm going to go locate here. This would appear to be where the line's terminating. Alrighty, so once again, as you face the front of the home from the street, the line exits out of the house around the rear right corner, and then veers into the backyard. It moves from right to left, from one side of the yard all the way to the other. Near the back left corner of the property, you'll see a concrete lid back there where the tank is. And my locate right now is coming in just barely before that. Anyway, and that's kind of where I stop my stuff here. Everything from about the tank on out, that falls into someone else's category there, into the septic world. And often that ends up being city responsibility. So right here, very, very thick ridges of debris. Again, sorry my camera is doing this. I don't know why it's sitting upside down like it is, but I would certainly recommend this get cleaned. It's extremely thick. You've lost about half the diameter there, as far as height goes anyway. So it's a spot where debris could hang up. The flow line area is clean, is clear. It would require something that's, approximately about 2 inches tall to actually run into that, but it's a spot where you could get some action there. The other reason to clean that would be to verify there's nothing underneath it. That looks fairly indicative of an overload scenario from a septic tank. It looks like a bunch of debris. It looks like potentially some, you know, toilet paper. There's probably some grease, whatnot in there, but it's got some chunkiness to it that could theoretically be dirt. So if you do end up getting the line cleared out, you want to take a second look on a rescope to make sure you don't have any bad pipe joints there or something of that nature that might be allowing stuff to seep into the line, or something that could have created a blockage and caused that kind of debris deposit there. Being that we're as close as we are to the tank, most likely it's just debris related to the tank having a problem at some point in the past. Like if it didn't get pumped out soon enough, or improper stuff went down it and it backed up. That's often, it looks very, very much like that. Bear with me, I'm just jotting a note down here. And I did do a locate out over there just a couple feet from the tank lid. Locator was getting right around 3.5 feet deep, so pretty shallow line, especially considering how long it is. Average sewer line depth I'm looking at by the time I'm 80 feet out, usually we're in the, you know, 5, 6, 7 foot deep realm. That's the length of most sewer lines there out to a street. Often are even deeper than that at a main. So the reason I say that, when you're running a line this length here, you know, that's not 100 feet, but it's getting close to it, with fairly shallow depths to work with, it makes your tolerances a lot tighter. And if you don't get the thing installed just right, it's pretty easy to end up with some settling, as you just don't have the same level of depth to work with. So right here, it's very hard to tell what this is. It looks like something from outside the sewer line has penetrated through the joint there. What it is, I can't really tell you. It almost looks like a big piece of black plastic. And I've seen this before in scenarios where, like, you know, if someone's gardening or whatnot and they install something into the ground, don't realize the sewer pipe's there and run into it. Anyway, that's something I'm going to recommend to fix on, because it does look like you've got green PVC on both sides of this. The only other explanation for what that is there is it could be a rubber black or the rubber Fernco that's joining the pipe joints together has somehow been pushed inward into the sewer line. So one, you could potentially have a compromised joint here that's exposed to the ground to some extent. You've also lost diameter. You've got a level of hard obstruction there that can catch debris as it comes to the line. That is partially obstructing the flow line. So I'm going to get that located here. And I am using red paint. I apologize, my supplier sent me the wrong color. Normally I use green, but just look, it's brick red. Alright, I'll try and snap a photo of this just for reference. You can forward it on to people, but the plus side is that the line is very easy to get to. It's only about 2 foot 5 inches deep is what I'm getting there, marked with a red X. It's just out maybe, I don't know, 5-8 feet out from the back decking or so. There's a big tree that it's fairly close to. So usually what causes that, I think what that is at least the most likely thing anyway, is it's like the Fernco rubber gasket material got pushed into the sewer line somehow under some level of trauma to the sewer line. I've seen stuff like that happen plenty of times. Usually it's on older pipe materials. I generally see that more so on cast iron. But it often happens when something bangs into the sewer pipe, like an excavator bucket, something of that nature. The other causation of that sometimes is tree roots can wrap around the sewer line or be pushing into it, and it can force that rubber Fernco into the flow or into the sewer line that way. Hard to say what it is or what's caused it anyway. So here, about 42 feet, there is a little bit of standing water prior to 53 feet where that appears to be a Fernco there. There's some standing water prior to it, but that is the result, it looks like, of that Fernco damming up the sewer line. This is like the first true standing water we've got here due to gradation or settling issues. So that one there is right around the inch mark. It's actually just under it. So, and for reference, my typical breaking point where I start to recommend repairs, so right now, bottom left-hand corner of the screen, the water line's not even completely submerging my camera head. You've got somewhere around half, maybe 3/4 of an inch of water here. Very little to no buildup at all. The only buildup that's actually in the line here is a little bit of grease buildup, and grease is not something I use as a metric to gauge how a particular imperfection is affecting flow. as grease is an improper item. It should not go down the sewer line to begin with. And it will build up anywhere in a sewer line, belly or not, but it tends to concentrate at standing water. So in a home that puts very, very little grease down the line, it's about the only place where you'll find any of it built up. That belly there is too minor, in my opinion, to require repairs. It's a good distance from the home, and I've been doing this 13 years now. I've cambered 25,000 sewer lines, done a lot of drain cleaning. Bellies like that, they're the kind that if you're blocking up and backing up out of a belly that tiny, it has very little to do with the belly itself. It has almost everything to do with how the line is being treated. Even close proximity to the home, you know, first 5 feet right out of the gate, it's still one I would hesitate to recommend a repair on. It's just minor. So another spot here with some standing water that runs from around 27 feet. Though what I would recommend here, I mean, aside from the repair spot out there where it looks like the Fernco is pushed into the line, I would recommend some cleaning just to get this thing back down to base for the new homeowners. There is some grease buildup in the line. It's not nightmarish levels of it, but there's enough in here. I'd like to see it cleaned out so it's not contributing to any further buildup for a new homeowner. And unfortunately, once grease is there, it is there. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that just becomes stickier and stickier as time goes on. It's fat. Water hardly does a thing to it, even hot water. Drano won't touch it. It requires a machine to get to it. But once it's gone, you can mitigate grease buildup entirely. It's just a habit you got to build into your life. So this thing at its worst point, I don't think it even hits 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to call it a 1/16 to 1/4 inch. Again, that one's too minor, in my opinion, to require repairs. Now, bellies like that, plain and simple, they cause problems when the line is being abused, and generally being abused on a consistent basis. Now, if the repair guy who fixes the Fernco, you know, for an extra $1,000 will regrade that whole section of pipe, rock and roll. I would, you know, I might consider doing that, but on its own, it's silly, in my opinion. It's just too far away from the house to cause a problem. Not without the homeowner very much helping it along by abusing the line. So the only other thing here I would look into, I will try and mark this as long as it's not covered up, is this Y connection here at 3 feet. I'm just not sure what it is. I don't see any obvious downspouts right in the immediate area. It could be nothing to be concerned about. I don't know what it is, and it's an unknown, so I'm going to recommend you check into it. All right, I put a marking down that should be close enough. This is where all my equipment's set up right now, so I'm trying to mark between all of it. You'll see a red marking here just 2-3 feet out from the cleanout access. Recommend looking into that to make sure there's nothing about it the city doesn't like. Most likely it is fine and up to snuff, but anyway. As a little bit of an overview there, the bellies from 27 to 34 feet holding somewhere between a 1/16 and 1/4 inch of water, and then the belly from 38 to 42 feet that's somewhere around a 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch, are both too minor, in my opinion, to require repairs, especially when you consider the distance they are from the home. And not to mention, there's the only thing that's there is some grease buildup. We don't have major blockage evidence, anything like, and I would not expect to see that from bellies that size in 4-inch plastic pipe that far from the home. This plastic pipe and its smoothness mitigates a lot of buildup. Bellies become a lot more concerning to me these days after scoping as many lines as I have. When you've got reasonable to substantial standing water in rough old pipe materials like cast iron and concrete, where you have a coupling effect of rough pipe walls that snag debris as it moves very slowly through those areas. It's much, much, much more prone to a completely different animal. So those are not ones I would recommend fixing, not unless the repair guy is about willing to do it for almost nothing extra. That's the only reason I'd even mess with it, honestly. Anyway, the one thing I am going to recommend to fix on here is at 53 feet, where it looks like you've got a bad pipe joint with Fernco material bulging into the line. One, I'm concerned that joint may allow a root through it at some point. Two, it's causing an obstruction. As it is, it's an area where a blockage could potentially happen because it's a partial obstruction there in the flow line. Look into the Y connection at about 3 feet out, and again, I recommend cleaning just jet the sewer line out to get the grease buildup out of it. It's very, very thick at the end of the line. The rest of it is, you know, it's a reasonable amount, not nightmarish, but there's enough there. I'd like to see it gone so it's not contributing to buildup in the future for a new homeowner. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on all that. After any repairs are done and or drain cleaning, and if you do both of them on this thing, fix the bad joint and drain clean it, ideally I would try and get them both done. That way you can rescope once. And when you do a rescope for a repair, you want to do that after the trench is closed, not when it's open, or you're not going to catch any settling problems. So it's important to do it that way. Luckily, there's not 8 feet of earth on this thing, but you can see standing water and bellies can still happen. Luckily, the ones that you have here are minor. Anyhow, as the line sits, it is functioning. It is draining slower than it should due to some of the issues I've mentioned there, some of the grease buildup, the obstruction to flow line. It is still a functioning sewer line. You'll have much improved functionality after both cleaning and that repair is done there to get the obstruction out of the way. As for the septic tank and beyond, that again usually falls into the city's territory. That I don't mess with. Hopefully all that stuff is up to snuff and looking good. And again, everything I've marked out here is with red paint.